Hello everyone. Today we're going to look at how I typically edit our videos for the library. I use DaVinci Resolve 17 is the current version, and you can find that just by searching for DaVinci Resolve and looking for this download now button, and that'll get you whatever the latest version is. Right now it is 17. This display I'm using is set to 1920 by 1080. That's the resolution. You may have a different sized monitor. Typically this monitor that I'm using is not set to this resolution. It's quite a bit higher, but for recording, I set it lower just to make it a little bit simpler for the recording software that I'm using. So anyway, this is a professional level editor for video editing. Similar to Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro if you have a Mac. It does that same kind of thing. Blackmagic is the company that makes this one. They are primarily known for hardware, cameras, but they also make software, and it is free. That's the big difference between this and Adobe software or the Final Cut software. As long as you're not going to be using it for commercial uses, you're not going to be making money off of it, then you can use it for as long as you want, no restrictions on it or anything like that. So I've already got it installed. I'll go ahead and get that going. All right, so it starts. I have a bunch of projects because I make a bunch of videos, and we're going to start a new project today. And you want to title it something that you'll know what it is. So I usually go with an abbreviation that lets me know which series I'm doing. So What's New Wednesday, and the date that I recorded it. All right, this is the basic layout that it starts on. It defaults to this screen for me, which is the cut screen. You can switch between the different screens down here at the bottom. The cut screen is more like Final Cut. That's why it's named that. That's not what I learned on. I came up through the Adobe software suite, and it looks more like this one, the Edit tab. Edit and Cut do similar things. Each provides something a little bit different, but the biggest difference is just the layout, the way things are distributed on the screen. So the first thing you need to do is get some video and stuff in there. So go ahead and drop those in. Start with this one. Always start with the main camera video, because if it's a different frame rate or a different resolution, it'll change this timeline to match that. And so that's what it's asking. It's saying it's something different. Do I want to change? And yes, I do. So I always match to the first track that I drop in. And then I drop in the other ones, and they will all kind of put the same. All right. So these are the ones I use every video for What's New Wednesday. It's the intro, a couple music tracks, our logo, and the new release segment. And then the latest camera A and camera B video files. Go ahead and drop those in there. So we'll start with camera A. Actually pull it in, make the audio where I can see the peaks. And then, we didn't bring in the audio. So here's the main audio. Drag that in. Now take audio 1 for camera 1. And you can kind of see these peaks here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Those look similar, so we'll drag those to get close. Okay, and that's where I put in my clapper. And that's what we do the clapper for, so that you can match up your audio files. So we'll just zoom in a lot and then drag it so they look about the same. This one happens to have a couple making a lot of noise picking it up, so we'll look at that. It's pretty close. And then I'll just listen to make sure it sounds right with the video.
Do the clap.
That looked right.
Busy month, so we have several things to report this morning.
I'm just watching the lips and making sure it doesn't look like it's been dubbed in or something.
But first, as always, we have a few new materials to highlight.
And since there are two identical audio tracks, if they're not lined up perfect, they'll have like a slight echoey sound to it. But
Those items just recently arrived.
Person during our regular business hours and check out any of the materials you would like to borrow.
it looks pretty good. So I'm going to take off the camera audio because the camera audio is the weaker of these two. This is just recorded in camera. Here's what it sounds like. I've soloed it.
Shaping up to be a busy month, so we have several things to report
Let's
this
switch
morning.
to the main
But first, as always, we have a few new materials to highlight. Busy month, so we have several things to report this
audio. A
morning.
lot cleaner.
But
just a
first,
smoother
as always,
sound. So that's why we use good audio. So to get the bad audio out, we will unlink this video and audio from the camera. Now I can select just the camera's audio, remove it, select the video and the good audio, and link it. So now they are stuck together and it can't get messed up by dragging it around. Now I'll shrink it back a little bit. In my experience, audio is more important than video for video. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but you can have cheap looking video, grainy or bad resolution or jittery, and people kind of, in their brains, they fix it. But if you have muffled audio or staticky, if they can't hear it clearly, you'll get more negative feedback than if you had a little problem with the video. So I always try to make sure the audio is good. I don't always succeed, but that's where I'm kind of focusing first, is audio. All right, so camera A and audio A is all lined up. So now I'll just clip out to where we start, and I will cut off everything before that. That's getting ready, and delete it. It's gone. So you have these tools here. This is the select tool, and this is the blade tool or the cut tool. And you can use keyboard shortcuts to switch between. So that's A and B for blade, A for, I don't know, anything. So we will drag that towards the beginning. And then we're going to drop our intro in now. So that intro is on all of our videos. There's a kind of a lengthy fade out here. And I usually cut it right about there when it starts getting almost black. So we'll cut that. And we'll delete. And I'm going to use, you can grab these corner things here, these little anchors, and I go to 40 something, doesn't really matter. And I'll grab this anchor and do 40 something. And I'll kind of line them up. So that's going to create a little bit of a fade between the two tracks there. And see, I'm still looking kind of goofy there, so we're going to just move this, and it keeps that fade whenever I'm using this tool here, where I'm grabbing the edge and moving it. And I know I'm going quick, but you can always pause, and this isn't a comprehensive guide, it's just to show how I personally do these videos for the library. So let's see how that looks. Still too much dead air there, I think. Right now I have it snapping, so you'll see this little tool here, the little magnet. Snaps mean it'll grab that edge. You see it kind of grabbing it. And I don't want it on the edge, so you got to push past it, or you can just take the magnet off and now it won't grab that edge. Sometimes it's useful to turn it off if you need fine detail. But let's see. This should be good.
Good morning, everyone.
and it looks good to me. So let's drop some music in. We use music from Bin Sound, and you just have to give credit in your description that you're using it from them. By default, it's super loud. And so I go up here, select the audio that I just dropped in MP3 from Bin Sound, and I bring the volume down by negative 32 decibels. Sounds like a lot, but let's see how it sounds.
Good morning, everyone. It's What's New Wednesday.
It's not bad, but I'm going to pull our audio up. I can do it the same way by selecting this audio, and then I can put a number in here. It's usually between 5 and 10, but you can also grab, there's a line right here that you can grab, and see that's making those peaks bigger. You know, it does the same thing as putting it in. You see it's changing that number whenever I move this line up and down. But let's just put in 7 manually here, and it changes the whole thing.
Good morning, everyone. It's What's New Wednesday.
November is shaping up to be a busy month, so we have several things to report this morning.
Sounds better. Now, before I go any further, zoom out. You can zoom out by holding Alt and using your scroll wheel on your mouse. That's the easiest way to do it that I've found. All right, so before we go any further, you see I have one big video paired up with that audio track. And so what I'm going to do, since it's all one right now, is go ahead and edit that color a little bit. So that's this tab here. You mouse over it, it says color. And there's a lot going on this screen, but basically all you need to pay attention to for what I'm doing is the first little tab on the color screen is curves, and the easiest way to do it is just drag this line somewhere in the middle here and kind of move it around. And you see as I'm moving it, it's changing that color temperature, it's changing the brightness, it's just doing everything all at once. And so I just kind of pull it up just a tad. You don't want to go too much or things start getting blown out, and you don't want to go the other way too much or it gets too dark, but it usually needs it just a little brightness makes it better. All right.
Good morning, everyone. It's What's New Wednesday.
November is shaping up to be a busy month, so we have several things to report this morning. But first, as always, we have a few new materials to highlight.
All right, so this is where we cut to our new materials. That's the other camera. We actually shoot that part completely separate from this. As you'll see, it's not in here right now. I need to cough, but yeah, we just take a pause and then we start back again.
Those items just recently arrived, and we'll have them on our shelves and ready for checkout soon.
But since we don't want my cough and we want that video instead, we'll cut and cut. Take out that, and then we need to make a little bit of room, so we'll grab here and move it way on out of the way. And that's why you edit the color first, otherwise you'd have to edit this little segment's color, and then you need to edit this segment's color. All right, so we'll grab the other video. Always put it on a different track, because if I put it on the same one to start with, it's going to cover up that. See, you don't want that. And when I recorded this one, there was a lot of dead air, so of us getting the notes ready and everything, so I'll just go to where we start on this one. Which is right about there. Make a cut and delete everything before that. And I should have been using the clapper, but I sometimes forget whenever I'm not on camera. So then we'll just snug that in there, pull that in there. And well, let's pull this back a bit. Whoa. Pull this back a bit. we need our new release thing. So I take the audio off of this new release video because we don't use it anymore. We just use the video portion. And I'll put it on top here. So let's see what we're saying here.
November is shaping up to be a busy month, so we have several things to report this morning. But first, as always, we have a few new materials to...
So she starts talking about the new materials coming. So I'll put it right after she says that. And we'll do another little fade. Now this one's different. You see, under here you can see that you still have our arms. You can see my finger there and some wall up above. That's because the new releases video is a slightly different size. So you can fix it a couple different ways. You can resize the new releases, by moving these zooms here. So you can zoom it in a little. But the way I typically do it is just leave it the same. And I cut right about there. And we'll zoom there. Or not zoom, we'll fade it in. So that's fading against that one. And then we'll just take this video out, leaving the audio. And again, there's a couple ways to do it. You could, like I did with the audio earlier, select it, unlink it, and then delete it. Now you see up here on our preview, the bottom and top are not showing anymore. Another way to do it though, that I typically do, is to just take the opacity down. So we drop that to 0, which means this is not visible anymore. Let's see what that looks like.
But first, as always, we have a few new materials to highlight.
That looks pretty good. And it holds a bit longer than I typically like, so we'll cut it right about there. Delete the ending. And then I'll overlap this, because I'm always saying the same thing at the beginning. This week in new materials we have... Oh, let's see. I hear that audio and I don't like it. I forgot to use the good audio. So let's drag in the good audio, and we need to pair that up, match that up. And since I didn't use a clapper, it's a little bit tougher, but not impossible. I'm gonna turn these anchors off. The good thing about this one is, since our faces aren't on the camera, you don't have to get it exact. People can't really see that it's not lined up perfectly. You just have to get it pretty close. And that looks pretty close. Let's listen to it. And last we have Creative Homeowner's Ultimate Guide to Home. I don't hear any bad echo, so we'll go ahead, just like before, selected the main video and audio together, and I unlinked it. Now I'm going to delete the audio, select the video and the audio together, and to select two different tracks simultaneously, you just click one, hold Control, click the second, link those together. Now they're matched. And then I'll just go back. Now let's see what we're looking at.
This week in new materials we have...
Pretty good. All right, the audio's low on this compared to...
We have a few new materials.
This week in new...
So I just need to bring that up. Let's see what I set it at. And you can switch between the audio properties up here, since they're linked, and audio there, video there. That's what I'm doing. I'm working with audio first. And I set that to 7, so that should be close. Let's go to audio here and set that to 7.
This week in new materials we have... Five Nights at Freddy's.
Sounds a lot better. All right, we're going to fade this the same as we did the other. Now let's scoot that just a hair. I don't really like cutting in the middle of a word. Sometimes it puts a little stutter in there. So we'll cut right after that. And then I'm going to change the opacity of the video all the way down to 0. And then fade that in. So this transition should be...
As always, we have a few new materials to highlight.
The stutters you see there are just because this computer is rendering it for a preview and it's not able to keep up. Whenever it renders the final, those stutters shouldn't be present.
This week in new materials, we have Five Nights at Freddy's, number 11, Fazbear Frights Prankster by Scott Cawthorn, Ellie Cooper, and Andrea Wagner. Halloween may be over for the year, but scary tales can be fun year-round. This new young adult book features 3 novellas connected to the hit video game series.
Alright, so I pause it right after she takes the book away. I'm going to make a cut and let it play a little bit. Alright, so the new book is coming in. Now I pause it again. You can always pause real quick. Just hitting the space bar will pause it or unpause it. So we've got it paused, and I'm just going to push the left arrow, and it goes back 1 frame at a time. I'm just going to go back a few, make another cut, and delete this white space, and then sync it up again. Turn on the anchor. There it goes. So you should, yeah, a lot quicker, less dead time there. Now you notice it is upside down, a little dim, but we'll fix that after we make our cuts. So let's continue on through here.
The Butler by Danielle Steele. The 2 identical twins take 2 drastically different paths in life. Joaquin moves to Paris and becomes a prestigious butler. When news of his long-estranged brother reaches him, Joaquin decides to investigate.
I'm doing the same thing here. Cutting, and then going to take out that dead space. And just tighten it up.
Renegades, Born in the USA by Barack Obama and Bruce Springsteen. The 2 longtime friends have discussions about their lives, music, and enduring love of America despite the challenges. The material in this book is taken from conversations featured on their podcast and featuring additional archival material.
And last time, we have to take the dead white out.
And last,
now this one's a little different because I start talking before she's got the book on the screen. So I'll just put it real close to the words. So I'm not cutting off my audio. And that should be fine.
And last we have Create.
Because remember, audio is where we're focusing first. Then we look at the video. And then this last one, we just go till it's off the screen. And then we can cut anything after that. All right. Now we need to fix it being upside down and kind of zoomed out and all that stuff. So first, we'll just flip it. We are on the video properties up here, and we just look for the rotation angle, and we'll start with 180, hit enter, and that just flips it 180 degrees, so we're upside down. Now I'll zoom in until it looks about right, and then I'll use these X and Y coordinates to kind of center it up, you see. And then I can tweak the X and Y to make it look straighter. That's good. And then we'll do the same thing here. Flip it, zoom it, and then center. You need to zoom out a little on this one. You can put in a hard number go absolute, or you can do what I'm doing and just try to drag it out a little bit. And then adjust that rotation angle. Looks good. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect either. See, if you go too far, we're at the edge of the camera. It's not picking anything up over that way, so don't go that far. This one, that's about as far as we can go. It's a bigger book, but it looks good enough. And then the last one is another big book, so we're probably also at the edge of the frame here. Yeah, that's about as far as we can go there. But again, it looks pretty good. And now we're going to edit the color a little bit, brighten these up. And I do all of them at once by selecting them all. And again, that's holding control and selecting each one. You can also drag to select them all. That works too, as long as they're all right next to each other. Go to the color tab, and we'll just pull that up a bit. Go back to the edit tab, and it should have done it. Well,
And last we have Creative Home.
I think it did, but let's see this one separate. It just looks dark. Yeah, we'll just do them all. So I'm selecting each one individually here. Go into about the same spot. So right about there. Move that one. All right, now they're all roughly the same. Go back to edit.
New young adult book features 3 novellas connected to the hit video game series.
Look at that transition between the two to see how close. Pretty close.
The Butler by Danielle.
I'm fine with that. And that's how a lot of this goes. It's like, well, I'm fine with that. If I was smart, I wouldn't have cut this first. I would have left it one long bit, and I would have edited the color first. But I didn't think about that at the time. So now we'll pull in the second part of our video that we cut off earlier. And as it is, it's just going to cut real quick.
Those items just recently arrived.
Yeah, it cuts a little abrupt, so we'll put a little transition. We'll just do a quick little simple transition by right-clicking and say add a cross dissolve. 30 frames is pretty good. And that's all that was. It's just a real quick dissolve between the two. So you can see you step through it. And we're almost out of music here, so we're going to add our second track of music. Just drag that down. And again, bring the audio on it down, usually -32. I just know that for these tracks because I use them all the time, but you'll have to kind of dial in to get your track so it's not overpowering your audio or vice versa. All right, let's listen to that.
Those items just recently arrived, and we'll have them on our shelves and ready for checkout soon.
If you see something you're interested in, call us and ask about curbside pickup, or you can stop.
All right, so now we're into the main bulk of our talking segment. And if we look here, I still don't have enough music, so we'll go back to the first track, put it in at the end, just so we have enough to get us through the finish line. Sometimes it sounds weird whenever the music stops and we're just left there with dead air talking over it. All right, so the rest of the stuff, I'm going to be using our, Amy does a script every week. And we're done with this. So here's our script. And you can see the pink and blue text so we know who's talking. She's reading the pink and I'm reading the blue, and the green are kind of stage direction notes or whatever. So I remember to show the business hours on a screen during this sentence and show this image during the following paragraph. And so I'll pull that up so that I remember what I'm doing. I use two monitors so I can have this showing while I'm editing the video. But right now I'm just putting it here so you can see it. So we'll go to the beginning, and now we're going to go off the media pool, which is where our videos live, and go to Effects tab. And I'm going to do a clean and simple heading, and there's a ton of these here that you can use. And you can just play with them, figure out which one you like. This is the one we usually use for our beginning part. So right about there. All right, so we'll edit this to our video date that it's going to run, November 03, 2021. And that's the small text you can see. So the big text, what's new Wednesday. And then we're going to shrink that size since it cut it off there just a little bit. And we're on title here, and we're going to go to settings so that I can move it a little bit to the left and a little bit down. And then we'll look at that.
Good morning, everyone. It's What's New Wednesday.
November is shaping up to be a busy month, so we have several things to report this morning.
Looks pretty good to me. So nothing else needs to go in that beginning part. We'll skip all the way through the books, new materials, and go to here. And now I'll check my script. So the first thing is while I'm talking or stop by in person during regular business hours, and I need to put the business hours up. So we'll listen for that.
Those items just recently arrived, and we'll have them on our shelves and ready for checkout soon.
If you see something you're interested in, call us and ask about curbside pickup, or you can stop by in person during our regular business hours.
So there I said regular business hours, and so I need to put the text up on that. Let's see which one we're going to use. We'll use this simple box. And just kind of put it wherever you think. Over here. And then I just put my business hours in real quick. That's on one line, and on the other line I'll put Tuesday, Thursday. All right, both of those are too big, so shrink it up a bit. And shrink that other one up a bit. And we'll see how that fits.
Thing you're interested in, call us and ask about curbside pickup, or you can stop by in person during our regular business hours and check out any of the materials you would like to borrow.
Even if you don't want one of the new...
Make it a little bit longer there. All right, check that again.
out soon.
If you see something you're interested in, call us and ask about curbside pickup, or you can stop by in person during our regular business hours and check out any of the materials you would like to borrow.
Even if you don't want one of the new materials we just showed you, make sure you come by and check something out this month. We have a special event going on that just began this week, Library Battleship.
All right, so she's talking about Library Battleship. That's where we're at there. And I'm supposed to show this .png file during that following paragraph, which is me speaking. So I've already downloaded it, I believe. I just need to find where I put it. Alright, so here's our files. I've just dragged in to the working folder, and they're still selected, so I'm going to copy all three of those over, and there they go. And I need to grab the battleship one, put it right about there until it's finished speaking, which looks like it's going to be about there.
Battleship.
It's easy to play.
Yep. Okay, so it looks kind of silly with it sitting there like that, so we need to do something to make that a little bit better. And this time we'll do it a little different. We'll just drag it on top of our video, line it up where we think it's about right, and then we'll do that simple transition cross dissolve on either side of it. Now let's look at that.
A battleship.
It's easy to play. All you have to do is check out at least one item.
So you notice the audio stays. It is me still talking. You've just replaced that video of us.
When you do, you'll get to make a guess at the location of our hidden ships on our library battleship board.
And you can always, again, grab in the middle and move it if you need it to last longer or shorter. All right, see what else we got. All right, so it goes for a while before we get to the next one, the scavenger hunt. So I'm listening for Amy to say this line here. We have one other event going on right now, our historical marker scavenger hunt. And we'll just watch the video. You always need to watch it and make sure that there isn't an error with your camera or something with the SD card or something, an audio going wrong. So that's what I'm going to do now.
If you hit one of our ships, you get a prize. But even if you miss, you'll be entered into a prize drawing to be held at the end of the game.
The game ends when all of our ships have been sunk, and everyone is entitled to make one guess each day they check something out.
So stop by and see if you can be the one to sink our battleship.
And if you have kids, don't forget to pick up your activity kits this month. In fact, if you pick up your kits promptly, you may even win another prize.
Every elementary student, teen, and tween who picks up their November monthly kit before November 24th will be entered into a prize drawing for a free fast food dessert. And preschoolers who pick up their first 3 weekly kits by that same date, November 24th, will be entered into a separate drawing for a free Happy Meal.
If you aren't already receiving these kits from us, you can still get signed up to do that. We'll post a link in the video description so you can register and get these free items from us each month. Preschoolers receive a different kit each week, and older kids and teens get a free activity pack during the first week of each month.
And we have one other event going on right now. Our historical marker scavenger hunt started this week as well.
All right, so that's the cue I was listening for. And so there in the next paragraph, I need to put scavengerhunt.png file up, and that's while I'm talking. So we'll click back over. I'll find that file. And put it over top to begin with. And then we'll just drag it down onto there. Same as before, we're not doing anything too crazy.
As well.
Muhlenberg County has 15 different historical markers scattered throughout the county. And
that just shows that file, again, identical to how I did it before.
Encouraging our patrons to get out and visit those this month. You can pick up a map and a list at either of our library branches, or you can download it from our website.
You'll have 2 weeks to visit as...
Okay, so we got that one in. Go a little further. All right, the next one here is a Story Walk Week. So I'm listening for me to say there's a lot going on this week for everyone to take part in. We hope you'll enjoy it all.
Many of the markers as you can. You'll need to submit proof of your visits to us.
Now see at the end of this audio, it's kind of, or at the end of this music segment, it's kind of dead for a while, so I'm going to fix that.
You'll have 2 weeks to visit as many of the markers as you can.
I'm just going to grab this track and pull it in just a little bit. Let's see how that goes.
You'll have 2 weeks to visit as many of the markers as you can. You'll need to submit proof of your visits to us by November 15th to be eligible for prizes, and you can do that either by taking photos of each marker or by answering a question about each one.
Everyone who participates will receive a prize, but if you visit at least 12 of the 15 markers, you'll be entered into our grand prize drawing as well.
Full details are available on the website or on the map you'll get at the desk if you come into the library.
There's a lot going on this week for everyone to take part in. We hope you'll all enjoy it.
All right, that was the cue I was listening for. Kind of said it a little bit funny, but it's good enough. So I'm looking for storywalkwheat.png to run while she's saying this paragraph. Yeah, that should be about right. Just to make it simpler and more uniform, we'll go ahead and drag it down just like the others. And put those cross dissolves on. Let's see how that goes.
Part in. We hope you'll all enjoy it.
And Storywalk Week is coming up in mid-November as well. We're hoping to have some fun activities out at our story walks during that week, weather permitting. So make sure you follow our social media pages for the most up-to-date information about those events and everything else going on at the library.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
We will.
All right, that was a decent one, but I did a little lip smack thing there I didn't like, so I'm going to fix it. Simplest way to do that is to cut, and I'm just going to cut around that little audio bit there, and I'm just going to drop it all the way out. So I'll pull it all the way down. We'll see how that goes. Sometimes that doesn't work, but I think it'll work here.
You can find us on
going on at the library.
You can find us on Facebook.
It worked. So get rid of that smack. Here's this with the smack in.
Sorry.
And getting rid of that lip smack.
You can find us on Facebook.
All right, so now we got close to the end. Okay, holiday closures. We do have a little bit more. Okay, so I just need to put those dates up in the middle of first sentence. So
Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
We will have a few holidays coming.
All right, so I'm going to go back over to effects because I need to type some stuff in here. And this is several things, so I'm just going to do the simple text. We'll drop that on. This takes a little bit more editing, but you can fit more stuff in this way and kind of tailor it to what you're needing. So I'm going to put close dates. Let's say November. I don't really like this editor too much. It gets a little, because you're typing over here on the right and it's changing it over here, and your eyes are constantly darting back and forth. It's not the best, but it works, I guess. And we'll change all those font. And we'll underline the top. And now I'm going to move it down a bit. So, not that one, this one. And now I'm going to put a little block around it. And all I have to do, since the background is selected, normally the background is set it on the height is 0, so it's not there. So you can just pull it up and it will be there. And if you need a little bit more width or less width, you can move that one in. So I'm going to move that in a little bit. And that just makes it a little bit clearer, a little bit easier to read there. And since this doesn't have any sort of motion or fading, I'm going to fade that in just a little bit.
Few holidays coming up later this month that will lead to the library being closed for that day, but we'll post reminders on social media.
And that's pretty good, but we'll go ahead to where Amy
For
stops
the day,
talking,
you know, to stop by ahead of time if you got any materials you need.
which is right there. So gives people a little bit more time to read it.
Holidays coming up later this month that will lead to the
And it's always better to double check, because once you render, rendering can take a while, especially if it's a long video or a lot of effects in it. And so you want to double check your text, because that's just an easy spot that you can make a mistake and have a silly typo that makes you have to redo the whole video. I am speaking from experience. All right, that should be all.
That's all we have for this morning's video. Thank you for joining us again today, everyone. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more library news.
Have a great week.
And I leave a little bit of dead air there so that I can cut right. So we'll cut right there. And we'll just lop off the rest. So the rest is just us getting up, making funny faces. So need to cut that off. And then go back to the media pool. We always end with our logo. So I'll put the logo there. And we'll chop off the audio after that. And then I want the logo to start. We'll just go all the way up against this. Obviously, it's a little big, so we need to shrink it down. And so I select the logo file and use the zoom tool. I just drag it till it looks about right. That looks good. And then I position it. Move it over into that corner. That looks good. And then at the beginning, this is a little bit more of an advanced thing, but we're going to go through it real quick here at the end. It's using the keyframe tools. So the logo file is selected, and I've got the zoom and the position set for where it is at this position on the timeline. So I'm going to lock those by hitting these little things here. Those are the keyframes. And then I'm going to go to the end, or near the end, right about there. I'm going to hit it again. And that's just telling it that at this point at the beginning and at the point that I'm at now, the zoom and the position are locked at those. But I want to move it at the end. So here I'll hit those again, and I'm going to change these values back to the full size and the original centered position. So 0, 0, and 1 is your default. So that basically, again, the beginning, it's in the corner and zoomed small. This little arrow goes to the next keyframe, and it has stayed the same. But by the third keyframe, it is big. So there's motion right here in between. We'll see how that looks. And we'll also fade that.
Need.
That's all we have for this morning's video. Thank you for joining us again today, everyone. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more library news.
Have a great week.
So here comes the zoom. And so that's just, again, it's moving that zoom and position simultaneously at that last moment. And I also want to fade this video out a little bit while that's going on. So let's find where that one was. Okay, so I'll just drag that to that point. And I'll drag this audio right about there. So it's fading the music out, it's fading the video out. And this audio we can just cut. Let's see how that goes.
Library news.
Have a great week.
Pretty good. Okay, so now that we've got it, we think we got it. So now we think we have it where we want it. You know, I usually would go back and watch it again just to make sure there's no typos, that everything sounds and looks good. But the last step is this deliver. And this is just meaning this is the rendering process. And it can take a while, but you just need to name it something. I usually name it. And here I'll name it the date that it's going to run, or at least I try to if I know that date. And I do V1 because let's be honest, sometimes it needs several revisions before it's perfect. And then I'll change it to MP4. That's just what I like working with. And I just glance and make sure this stuff looks right. It should always be the same because I'm using the same camera settings and recording settings and everything. And I add this to the render queue. That's saving that location, and now it's queued up. And then whenever I'm ready, I just hit render all. And again, this will take a little bit. It's just going through the entire video that we just did and finalizing it and making one continuous file from that. So that's all there is to it. Whenever it's done, it'll be in that saved folder that you chose. And I hope you guys learned something about how we do our week, or well, not weekly, but every 2 week videos for What's New Wednesday. It's the same process for our other videos. Some are more complicated, some are easier. It just depends. You know, the ones we do that aren't here in the library or that are on location somewhere, those tend to be more complicated and can take several hours to edit and get to where I like it. But these that we do on the Wednesday videos are usually some of the easier ones, unless something went wrong somewhere, which happens. But anyway, I hope you guys learned something. Have a good day.